Stop waiting. Stop looking outside yourself for permission, validation, love, opportunity, or power. What if I told you that everything you've been searching for is not in another person, not in better circumstances, not in luck, and not in time? What if the only thing standing between you and the life you desire is the belief that you need something outside of you? You don't. You only need yourself. There is a power within you that has been quietly creating your entire experience. Every success, every delay, every open door, every closed one, not by chance, but by assumption, you have been taught to react to life. Today, you remember that life reacts to you. The moment you stop depending on the world to change, the moment you stop asking for proof, the moment you decide within yourself, I am the source, that is the moment everything shifts. Stay with me, because what you are about to understand will change how you see yourself forever. From the very beginning, you were taught to believe that life happens to you, that circumstances decide your fate, that other people hold influence over your success, your love, your recognition, and your worth. You were conditioned to look outward for causes and inward only for reactions. But this reversal of truth is the very reason so many feel powerless. The truth is not that life controls you. It is that you have been unconsciously controlling life all along. There is only one operant power in your world, and it is not circumstances, not society, not luck, and not other people. It is your awareness. It is your consciousness. It is the silent I am within you that accepts ideas as true and sustains them with feeling. That inner acceptance is what gives life to every experience you encounter. You may not realize it, but every event in your life first existed as an assumption. Not necessarily a spoken affirmation, but a deep, often unnoticed belief about yourself and reality. If you believe you are overlooked, you will find evidence to support that belief. If you believe opportunities are rare, they will appear scarce. If you believe you must struggle for everything, life will reflect struggle back to you. This is not punishment. It is not fate. It is law. The outer world is not independent of you. It is an echo. It mirrors the state of consciousness you consistently occupy. To understand that the operant power is within means you stop assigning creative authority to appearances. You stop reacting as though circumstances are fixed and immovable. Instead, you begin to ask a different question. What must I be assuming to experience this? This question shifts you from victim to creator instantly. The world you see is delayed. It is yesterday's belief made visible. And because it is delayed, it can tempt you to think it is permanent. But nothing external has the power to sustain itself without your continued agreement. Your attention, your belief, your emotional acceptance, these are the forces that keep any condition alive. When you withdraw belief from a state, it begins to dissolve. When you persist in a new assumption, it begins to solidify. This is why trying to fight circumstances rarely works. You cannot out-argue a reflection. You cannot force a mirror to change while you remain the same. The change must occur within. The operant power is not in effort. It is in identity. Who are you being? Not what are you doing, but who are you being in consciousness? If you identify as someone who is constantly waiting, life will make you wait. If you identify as someone who is chosen, doors will open in ways that seem almost mysterious. If you identify as someone who is secure, you will notice that situations align in ways that confirm that security. The shift is subtle but profound. Instead of asking, how can I change this situation? You begin to declare, I change myself. And when you change your inner state, the outer rearranges itself naturally. This does not require force. It requires awareness. Awareness of what you are accepting as true about yourself in every moment. The operant power within you operates through assumption and feeling. It does not respond to fleeting wishes. It responds to sustained identity. Whatever you consistently feel yourself to be, that you become an experience. If you feel small, the world appears big. If you feel unworthy, the world appears withholding. If you feel powerful, the world appears responsive. Nothing outside you is deciding this. It is decided within. This realization is both humbling and liberating. Humbling because you can no longer blame. Liberating because you no longer have to wait. There is no authority greater than your own consciousness. No condition stronger than your sustained belief. No delay permanent enough to override a persistent assumption. You are not here to beg life. You are here to define it. And the moment you truly accept that the operant power is within, something shifts. You become still. You become certain. You stop chasing outcomes and start embodying identities. You stop fearing circumstances and start selecting states. You realize that the world is not testing you. It is revealing you. Every experience asks only one question. Who are you being? Answer that question deliberately. Choose consciously. Assume boldly. Because the power you have been searching for has never been absent. It has only been unrecognized. The operant power is within you. It always has been, and it always will be. The world appears solid. It feels fixed, external, and independent of you. People act as they choose. Circumstances arise without warning. Opportunities seem random. Delays feel imposed. And so you are tempted to believe that life is something happening outside of your control. But this is the grand illusion. The world is not the cause of your experience. It is the effect. To change your world, you must first change yourself. Not your outer behavior, not your forced actions, not your surface level words. You must change your inner state, the identity you accept as true about yourself when no one else is watching. Everything in your outer reality is a mirror of your inner assumptions. If you attempt to fight the mirror, you exhaust yourself. If you try to manipulate reflections, you become frustrated. But if you change the source, the image being projected, the reflection has no choice but to follow. The source is you. Consider this. Two people can face the same situation and experience completely different outcomes. Why? Because they occupy different states of consciousness. One may see rejection, another sees redirection. One sees scarcity, another sees opportunity. The outer circumstance may look similar, but the inner interpretation and assumption shape the eventual result. You do not experience life as it is. You experience life as you are. This is why lasting transformation never comes from forcing external change. You may temporarily rearrange conditions, but if your inner identity remains the same, the old patterns will return. It is not the job, the relationship, the money, or the environment that needs to shift first. It is the self-concept you carry within. If you believe you are unlucky, even success will feel fragile. If you believe you are unworthy, even love will feel temporary. If you believe you must struggle, even progress will come with strain. The outer world faithfully mirrors the inner blueprint. So what must you do? You must become aware of the state you are occupying. Every day, without realizing it, you declare who you are, not necessarily with words, but with feeling, with expectation, with reaction. If you expect disappointment, you unconsciously prepare for it. If you expect recognition, you carry yourself differently. That difference in state alters your behavior, your perception, and ultimately your results. When you change self, you change the lens through which you view everything. And when the lens changes, the entire picture shifts. This is not about denial of current circumstances. It is about understanding their origin. What you see today is the harvest of yesterday's assumptions. But today, in this moment, you are planting again. Every thought accepted, every feeling sustained, every identity claimed. You are constantly shaping what will appear. The outer world cannot resist a sustained inner change. If you decide, truly decide, that you are confident, capable, and chosen, you will begin to think differently. You will interpret events differently. You will respond differently, and people will respond to you differently in return. It may seem as though they changed. In truth, you did. When you alter your inner conversation, the outer conversation follows. There is no need to control others. There is no need to force outcomes. There is no need to convince the world of your value. Change the belief about yourself, and the world will reflect that belief back to you. This is why persistence is essential. The outer world may not immediately reflect your new state. It may still display remnants of the old identity, but if you react to those remnants, you reaffirm them. Instead, remain faithful to your new self concept. Continue seeing yourself as the one who already is what you desire to become. Do not wait for proof before you believe. Believe first. When you consistently embody a new identity inwardly, something remarkable happens. Opportunities that once seemed invisible appear. Interactions shift subtly. Obstacles dissolve in unexpected ways. It feels almost magical, but it is lawful. You changed self, and the world responded. The truth is simple but profound. You cannot experience what you do not believe yourself to be. The world rearranges to confirm your inner declaration. If you declare weakness, it confirms weakness. If you declare power, it confirms power. So ask yourself honestly, who am I being? Not who do I wish to be someday. Not who do I hope to become when circumstances improve. Who am I choosing to be now in consciousness? Because the moment you shift that answer, everything begins to move. Change self, and you will never again feel trapped by conditions. Change self, and you will understand that no situation is permanent. Change self, and you will watch the world transform. Not because you forced it, but because it had no other choice. The world is not against you. It is reflecting you. And when you dare to transform within, the world must follow. There is a principle operating in your life every single day, whether you are aware of it or not. It does not pause. It does not discriminate. It does not judge whether your assumption is positive or negative. It simply accepts what you persist in believing to be true and shapes your world accordingly. That principle is this: assumption hardens into fact. An assumption is more than a passing thought. It is a belief accepted as reality without immediate evidence. It is something you inwardly consent to as true. And once accepted, it begins its quiet work beneath the surface of your visible world. Most people think facts create belief. They look at their circumstances and conclude, this is happening, therefore this must be true about me. But this reverses the order of creation. The truth is that belief creates facts. What you assume internally eventually solidifies into an external experience. If you assume you are not valued, life will present situations that confirm it. If you assume money is difficult to obtain, you will encounter obstacles around finances. If you assume people cannot be trusted, you will find evidence of betrayal, not because the world is cruel, but because it faithfully mirrors your inner conviction. The outer world has no creative initiative of its own. It reflects what you consistently accept as true. This is why two individuals can live in the same environment yet experience entirely different realities. One assumes opportunity, another assumes limitation. One assumes favor, another assumes rejection. The difference is not in their external world. It is in their internal assumption. What you repeatedly tell yourself, what you emotionally agree with, what you expect deep down, these shape the pattern of your life. Assumption is powerful because it operates beyond surface level thinking. You may speak words of confidence, but if inwardly you assume failure, the deeper assumption will prevail. The world responds not to what you occasionally say, but to what you consistently feel yourself to be. Feeling is the cement that solidifies assumption into fact. When you imagine something and feel it to be real, you are impressing that idea upon the deeper levels of consciousness. And once impressed, it begins to externalize. It may not appear instantly, but it is moving. Circumstances are aligning. Conversations are unfolding. Events are rearranging, all to reflect the accepted belief. This is why persistence matters. If you assume something briefly, but then doubt it repeatedly, you interrupt the process. But if you hold to an assumption steadily, especially in the face of contradictory appearances, You give it the stability required to materialize. The outer world is slow compared to the inner decision. There is often a delay between assumption and visible fact. During that delay, many people lose faith. They look at current conditions and think nothing has changed. But the creative act was completed the moment the assumption was accepted. The visible result is simply catching up. Think of it like planting a seed. The moment it is placed in fertile soil, growth begins. You do not dig it up every day to check its progress. You trust the unseen process. In the same way, when you assume a new identity, you must allow it to take root internally before it becomes visible externally. If you assume you are successful, begin thinking from that identity. How would you feel? How would you carry yourself? What would you expect? Dwell in that state inwardly. The world will eventually reflect it outwardly. Do not attempt to force the fact. Simply remain faithful to the assumption. Your life today is the hardened result of previous assumptions. Not punishment, not luck, not coincidence. Assumptions. And this is empowering because if assumptions created your present reality, new assumptions can create your future one. You are not bound by past facts. Facts are only assumptions that have solidified. Change the assumption, and over time, the fact must change as well. The key is consistency. Stop assuming the worst. Stop unconsciously rehearsing failure. Stop identifying with limitations that were never permanent truths. Instead, deliberately choose the assumption that aligns with the life you desire. Assume you are capable. Assume you are supported. Assume it is working out. Hold that inner position firmly, regardless of appearances, because appearances are only shadows of previous beliefs. They are echoes of what you once accepted. New acceptance creates new echoes. Assumption hardens into fact because consciousness is the only creative power. What you consent to inwardly cannot remain invisible forever. It must express itself. So be mindful of what you assume. For whatever you persist in believing about yourself, and your world will, without effort or struggle, become your lived experience. Choose wisely, persist boldly, and watch your assumptions turn into undeniable fact. There is a difference between wishing for something and possessing it in consciousness. Many people speak words of desire. They repeat affirmations. They visualize occasionally, yet nothing changes. Why? Because the creative force is not activated by words alone. It is activated by feeling. Feeling is the secret. Not emotion in a chaotic sense, but the deep inner conviction of already being what you desire to be. It is the quiet certainty that something is true, even before the senses confirm it. That feeling is what impresses the subconscious. And what is impressed upon the subconscious must be expressed in the outer world. You do not attract what you mechanically repeat. You attract what you feel yourself to be. If you say, I am successful, but inwardly feel inadequate, the feeling of inadequacy wins. If you affirm wealth but feel worried and lacking, the feeling of lack dominates. The outer world responds to the emotional signature of your identity, not the surface language of your lips. Feeling is the bridge between imagination and reality. When you imagine a scene and allow yourself to feel it as real, when you sense the relief, the gratitude, the confidence you would naturally experience if your desire were fulfilled, you are no longer hoping. You are inhabiting a state, and states create outcomes. Every state carries its own set of reactions, expectations, and behaviors. If you feel secure, you act differently than when you feel uncertain. If you feel chosen, you speak differently than when you feel overlooked. If you feel powerful, your posture, tone, and decisions shift automatically. You do not force these changes. They flow from the feeling. This is why trying to control the external world rarely works. The outer is only a reflection of the inner state. Change the feeling, and you change the state. Change the state, and the outer must rearrange itself to match. Most people wait for the outer world to give them permission to feel good. They say, when I see results, I will feel confident. But this reverses the law. You must feel confident first. You must feel fulfilled first. You must feel grateful first. The outer world is the echo, not the cause. When you cultivate the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are stepping into the identity of the person who already has what you desire. And once you occupy that identity consistently, reality adjusts to reflect it. It is not about generating intense emotion. It is about naturalness. The feeling should be calm, steady, and believable. If you desire financial freedom, imagine paying your bills with ease. Feel the relief. Feel the stability. Let it become familiar. If you desire love, imagine being embraced, supported, understood. Feel the warmth. Feel the security. The key is not the length of the imagination, but the depth of the feeling. A single moment of genuine conviction is more powerful than hours of empty repetition. And once you experience that inner shift, that quiet knowing, guard it. Do not allow external appearances to disturb it. Circumstances may temporarily contradict your new state, but remember, they are only reflections of previous feelings. They are fading echoes. Do not return to the old state by reacting to them. Persist in the new feeling. Live from it daily. When challenges arise, ask yourself, how would I respond if I already were the person I desire to be? Then respond from that place. That response reinforces the new identity. Over time, it becomes natural, effortless, automatic. Feeling is powerful because it bypasses doubt. It imprints directly upon the deeper levels of consciousness. And once impressed, the creative process unfolds without strain. You do not need to know how it will happen. You do not need to map out every step. The how belongs to the outer world. Your responsibility is the state. Feel it real. Not once, but repeatedly. Especially when it seems most distant. Especially when old fears attempt to resurface. Each time you return to the feeling of fulfillment, you strengthen it. Eventually, the line between imagination and reality dissolves. What once felt imagined begins to feel normal. And what feels normal manifests naturally. That is the secret. Not force, not struggle, not endless action, feeling. The world mirrors your inner emotional conviction. When you master your feeling, you master your experience. When you sustain the feeling of already being, having, or achieving, the outer world must comply. So do not wait. Enter the feeling now. Dwell there, and allow the unseen to become seen. One of the greatest revelations you can ever accept is this: there is no one to change but self. At first, this may sound limiting. It may seem as though it removes your ability to influence others or improve difficult situations. But in truth, it is the most liberating principle you will ever understand. Most of your energy has been spent trying to change the outer world. You have tried to convince people to see your value. You have tried to correct misunderstandings. You have tried to control outcomes. You have tried to fix circumstances. And yet, even when temporary change occurred, it often did not last. Why? Because the outer world is not the source. It is the reflection. When you attempt to change others without changing your inner assumption about them, you are fighting shadows. You may adjust behaviors briefly, but the underlying pattern remains. The world can only reflect what you persistently believe to be true. If you believe someone is difficult, you will continue to experience them as difficult. If you assume people overlook you, you will notice more evidence of being overlooked. If you expect disappointment, you will interpret neutral events as proof of it. It is not that others are fixed in these roles. It is that your assumption casts them in those roles. This does not mean you blame yourself. It means you reclaim authority. The moment you realize there is no one to change but self, you stop exhausting yourself trying to manipulate appearances. Instead, you turn inward and ask, what am I assuming that produces this experience? That question changes everything. Because when you change your assumption, you change your experience of the person or situation. And remarkably, people often begin to behave differently. Not because you forced them, but because your inner shift altered the dynamic. People respond to who you believe yourself to be. If you see yourself as respected, others tend to respect you. If you see yourself as valued, others begin to value you. If you see yourself as secure, others reflect that security back. Your self-concept silently directs interactions more than you realize. Trying to change others keeps you focused outward. Changing self returns power inward. Consider relationships. If you constantly assume your partner does not understand you, you will notice every small moment that confirms that belief. But if you assume they care deeply and are attentive, you will begin noticing evidence of that instead. Your focus shifts. Your reactions soften. Your communication changes. And the relationship transforms because you transformed. The same applies to career, friendships, family, even strangers. The roles people play in your life are influenced by the identity you occupy. When you change that identity, the roles adjust. This is not about ignoring real challenges. It is about understanding the root of experience. The outer world is shaped by inner agreement. Withdraw agreement from an unwanted state, and it begins to dissolve. If you no longer identify as the person who is disrespected, disrespect loses its grip. If you no longer identify as the one who struggles, struggle loses its persistence. If you no longer identify as the one who is unlucky, circumstances begin to align differently. Identity is the key. You cannot consistently experience something that does not match your self-concept, and you cannot escape experiences that align with it. Therefore, instead of trying to change people, change who you are being in relation to them. Ask yourself, who would I be if this were already resolved? How would I think? How would I feel? How would I respond? Then become that version now. Do not wait for them to change first. The outer world is slow to update. It reflects past assumptions. So when you change self, there may be a short period where nothing appears different. Do not be discouraged. Persist. Continue identifying with the new state. Continue seeing yourself as the one who is respected, loved, successful, secure. Eventually, the reflection catches up. There is profound freedom in this principle. You no longer feel trapped by others' behavior. You no longer feel dependent on their approval. You no longer feel powerless in the face of circumstances. You realize that your experience begins and ends within you. And when you truly accept that there is no one to change but self, conflict loses intensity. Blame dissolves. Frustration weakens. You stop trying to control and start embodying. You become the change. And as you do, the world reorganizes itself around your new self concept, not because you demanded it, but because it could not do otherwise. Change self, and you change everything. Now you see it. You were never powerless. You were never waiting. You were never lacking. You were only believing that power lived outside of you. The world is not the cause. It is the effect. Your inner state is the cause. From this day forward, stop chasing reflections. Stop negotiating with appearances. Stop asking circumstances for confirmation. Instead, turn inward. Claim the identity of the one who already has what you desire. Feel it, live from it, persist in it, and do not waver. Because when you no longer depend on the external world to define you, the external world has no choice but to reflect your new definition. You only need yourself, because the self within you is the creator of your reality. Stand in that knowing and watch everything rearrange. If this message spoke to you, take a moment right now and affirm in the comments, I am the operant power. Let this be the day you stop doubting your authority. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing growth. Thank you for stepping into your power. If this resonated with your spirit, like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to remember who they truly are. Your new reality begins the moment you decide. And that moment is now.